Today, we got to preview NFL Week 11 on this edition of the Shumake Take. Let's get it. All right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. This is episode number 22, and today I'm going to be recapping Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and ultimately previewing NFL Week 11 of the 2024 season. And a little bit of housekeeping to start. As you can tell, mic's changed, a little bit different. Audio quality is going to be a little bit better. I was worried about doing this initially because I thought that, my voice would be, or not my voice, my microphone would be kind of in front of my face, and it might be a little bit. It might shift as I kind of move my body around. So I expect a little bit of audio fluctuations, expect a little bit of things differently. I want my voice to sound a little bit better. I've noticed over the course of the past 21 episodes that, my microphone being right here or like off to the side like this, it sounds fine, but there's a little bit too much of an echo. I want a little bit more of a kind of a dynamic, cleaner voice without as much reverberation going on around me. So I'm not entirely sure how much of an impact this is going to make. I listened to made like a little test recording first and listened to it. It sounded pretty good. But again, that's on my phone. That's not, on headphones where I can kind of track everything dynamically and see exactly what's going on. But it's here. We're doing okay. So if I go back and look at this audio recording and I find my face kind of just like this for a little bit, I apologize. But just want to get that out of the way. Another thing, too, is I meant to talk about it last episode in 21, but I'm going to talk about it here. I don't really talk about outside topics other than football very much. But one of my passions, if you have been following the show since day one, I love video games. I'm a big video game person. And a video game that I played over the previous weekend was a game called Mouthwashing. If you guys are PC gamers, you guys have probably seen it on social media. There's a game out called Mouthwashing. I highly, highly, highly recommend you play it. It is one of the craziest games I've ever played. It is psychological horror, so if you're into that, this game is for you. If you're not into that, even then, I'd still recommend playing it because it is one of the most intense psychological experiences I think I've ever had in my entire life, and I'm not even joking. I'm saying that 100% with certainty that this game is nuts. The story is nuts. The gameplay at certain points is absolutely nuts. And the thing is, the story is super complex and convoluted, but you really don't get to you don't really get to appreciate the detail that the developers put into this game. You have to watch some type of analysis video explaining the story afterward, because the way they're telling the story is non-linear. That's all I'm really going to tell you until now, or until you guys go play it. But this game's nuts. It's nuts. It's intense. And looking back on it, it's one of those games where you literally just have to sit there and watch the credits roll, because when the game was over, when I finished it, the reflection that I had, looking back on everything, was just wow. That's one of those games. This is one of those games where you literally just pick it up and you can't put it down. It took me probably 3 hours to do a regular playthrough. It'd probably take most of y'all to do it 3 hours. You can watch YouTube videos of people doing it in an hour and 50 minutes, give or take, which that's fine. If you're not really into this thing, you're not really into playing it, but you want to watch someone else play it, go ahead and look it up on YouTube. There's long plays, silent playthroughs of it on YouTube. I would highly advise at least check it out, because it is one of the greatest games I think I've ever played in terms of story and in terms of, horror and psychological horror. It's absolutely incredible. I highly recommend you go play it. But we're not here to talk about the details of Mouthwashing, although it is a really good game. We are here to talk about football, though, and we got to start with covering Sunday Night Football, where the Detroit Lions beat the Houston Texans 26-23. Lions kicker Jake Bates hits the game-winning field goal to cap off a second-half comeback, where the Lions score 19 unanswered points, pitching a second-half shutout completely. And there's no other place to start with this game other than head coach Dan Campbell. Coach Dan Campbell, he is him. He is absolutely him. You listen to his post-game pressers. You listen to his, his victory speeches after games, and you can tell that he has built a culture in Detroit that not only has Detroit never had as a team And as a fan base, they've never experienced this before until now. This is a culture that, quite honestly, not only is it, like I said, it's not only something that we've never seen before from the Detroit Lions, this is a model culture for how you want your football team to look and how you want them to be prepared, how you want them to act. Everything that when you look at the players, you look at the coaches of the Detroit Lions, that is a model way you should run your organization in the National Football League nowadays. And it goes to tell you, culture is a real thing. Culture matters. But culture, people talk about this all the time, but it's never really demonstrated. Culture isn't about how good your team is, how things are when you're winning and whatnot, because culture comes around with winning. But culture is truly your team, like the culture of your team is really at its most, like you see it the most, if that makes sense. You see it the most when you're challenged. You see it the most when you have adversity. You see it the most when you're down. You see it the most when someone like a star player gets hurt and someone's got to step up. That's where culture really comes into play. Because bad football teams, you'll notice that, things get bad, players give up, they quit, they don't got fight. And you look at good teams. You look at the Detroit Lions. You see them go down. They are down 23-7 at halftime. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions in this game. The Lions had no business being in this game. And it looked like they were going to get blown out. It looked like they were going to get utterly destroyed and upset on Sunday Night Football. And guess what? They crawled their way back into this game. And guess what? That's culture. That's culture. You could be the Detroit Lions. You could throw 5 interceptions. You could be down 23-7 at halftime. And this team is going to come back and they're going to win. And that's absolutely incredible stuff to look at, because here's the deal. The NFL is always going to be about culture. It's always going to be about winning. But here's the thing. These are the type of situations where the team, the organization goes beyond winning, because ultimately that's the goal. But you want to create an environment where no matter what happens, no matter what situation you're in, you believe that you are going to come out on top and you're going to overcome it. That is what culture is. It is the belief that no matter what happens, no matter what you deal with, no matter what adversity hits you in the face and has you down, holding you, grabbing you by the throat, and you're about to pass out, you're going to find a way to get out of that grip and get the defender and turn the tables, whatever words you want to use. It's absolutely insane to me that there's so many organizations in the NFL that don't get it. And then you look at an organization like the Detroit Lions, who have been perpetually bad for as long as we can remember. They've been bad as long as I've been alive until now, right? And I'm only 22 years old, by the way, so that kind of put things in a little bit more perspective when I say that. But I mean, to see one of the most perpetually bad organizations historically get it right with Dan Campbell, it makes you wonder why more organizations can't get it right. It makes you wonder why, even certain organizations that have been historically good, like the Dallas Cowboys, right? They can't seem to get it right now. Why is that? And sure, the big thing is organization, but the real question is why? Is it because the organization is too stingy? They don't want to spend money. They don't want to do this or do that. And it's, probably an amalgamation of a bunch of different things. But either way, I mean, enough talking about culture and enough how important it is. Everyone knows how important it is. I mean, every team that's good understands it. Every team that's bad understands it. It's a thing. It's a real thing. It exists. And it's what every organization strives to achieve, is to have a good culture where no matter what happens, you can overcome anything that hits you in the face. That's the idea. But the thing with the Detroit Lions, it wasn't just that adversity. They were able to overcome it. The announcers talked about this during the game. You hear the post-game presser, you hear Jared Goff talking about it. You hear Dan Campbell talking about it. And it's just getting back to basics. The NFL is very complex. And when you're able to get back to just doing what you do best, which is running the football, nice play action, quick dump-offs, quick game, all that good stuff, that was what you go back to your foundation. You go back to your foundation of what works, and that's what the Detroit Lions did, and that's what led them to win this game. And it wasn't just Jared Goff throwing 5 picks and throwing the game-winning touchdown. or not throwing the, what was the game tying touchdown, excuse me. It wasn't just that. It was the run game that carried the second half. Jahmyr Gibbs going off, going crazy, having a good game. And it was also the Detroit Lions defense getting 4 sacks. Carlton Davis got 2 interceptions in this game at absolutely critical moments. And then you get Kirby Joseph? Or no, it was Terry and Arnold on that big third down. Knocked that pass away. A lot of people said it was pass interference. You could probably probably it was pass interference. It looked like it, but here's the deal. Alex Anzalone was in the way. That was a hard, the angle, for at least from a referee angle, looking at it in person, that would have been really hard to see. The camera angles obviously gave it away, but I can ensure, looking on the sideline, that was probably a lot harder to see than what the camera angles did. Didn't help give the referee vision any justice there, I don't think. But it's a whole team effort. It was a whole team effort. It was a great comeback win. And, a team that has no business being in that situation, being down and coming back and winning, because literally 31 out of 32 other teams in that situation will probably lose. Even the Detroit Lions, probably 8 times out of 10 in that situation, they'll probably lose. But that's what culture does. And enough with the culture thing with Detroit. We got to talk about culture with Houston, because the struggles that the Texans have had as of late are pretty concerning. Well, not pretty concerning, but they are concerning nonetheless. They started the year 5-1. They're now 6-4. That's a 1-3 stretch, obviously, but their losses in this stretch have been to the Packers by 2 points, the Jets by 8 points, and they lost to the Lions by 3 points. So not like huge marginal losses. I mean, they did get whooped by the Vikings earlier in the year, but I digress. We'll look past that for a moment. But when you look at the games that they've won, 4 out of 6 of them have been wins by at most 6 points. You could say, oh, that's a 1-score game. I wouldn't even say that's a 1-score game. That's a score where if the other team gets a touchdown, they lose. Their defense makes one mistake, or their offense makes one mistake, and the other team capitalizes, they lose. And that's the thing too. Like, they won by only 2 or 3 points against the Colts both times. They won by only a couple points against Jacksonville one time. Both of these teams are not very good right now. The Jaguars are horrendously bad, and they have the first overall pick in the draft. And the Colts, they're kind of falling apart at the moment because they can't get good quarterback play to save their lives. And then you look at the other wins. There was a who was it? It was a close win against a good team. I can't remember who it was. But I mean, the thing is, the Texans have been in 1-score games almost the majority of the year, and a lot of these wins are not against your really good teams. They're against bad football teams that they should be blowing out of the water. And I'm not going to say the Texans are going to fall off or nothing, or they're in trouble. But I said this before the season started. You need to pump your brakes on the Texans' hype, not because I think the Texans are going to be bad, not because I think they're going to be, like it's something like mid. Like, no, it's just, here's the deal. When you see a rookie year like CJ Stroud had, and you see the turnaround the Texans had in 1 year, something like that, if you look at it historically, it's incredibly rare. It's incredibly rare to see something like that happen, where 1 year one team is, competing for the first overall pick, and then the other year they're going to the playoffs and they won a playoff game, right? That's very rare. But you know what else is very rare? For that continuity to continue. Because here's the thing. Having a year like that, there's going to create a lot of hype. And ultimately, that's what really is causing, maybe not causing the struggles, but what is causing a lot of people, maybe in general, to be concerned by Houston. It's just overhype. People before the season started said CJ Stroud is going to be an MVP candidate. This team is going to be a Super Bowl contender that's going to challenge the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at all they added on offense. Look at all they added on defense and loaded up. And I said it, I'm not so sure. Because here's the thing. Culture, if you want to go back to culture for one moment, there's a difference between being the hunter and being the hunted. And right now, they're being the hunted, and it's not boding as well for them right now. And along with that, the Texans as a team right now, they're not, I mean, they're really good, but they're not, there's a couple places that are severely lacking that are holding this team back. The first one, interior offensive line. Interior offensive line is absolutely terrible for Houston. It got exposed in this game, not as bad as the New York Jets game, if I'm being entirely honest. But here's the thing. It's 2 weeks in a row now where they've lost, and their interior offensive line has severely struggled. And along with that, they've had struggles in scoring defense and red zone defense, which obviously those two go hand in hand. And at most, and a lot of times throughout the year, whether it's last week against the Jets and it's last night at the time of recording this video, right, Tuesday, Monday, it's a couple nights ago, but this game right here, the Lions, a lack of good second half adjustments and poor play calling by Bobby Slowick. And these things are going to hold this team back, ultimately. I mean, here's the thing. They're still going to win the AFC South by a landslide, I think. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to compete, right? They're not just going to be a one-and-done team. It could be, but right now they're definitely going to be in a competitive playoff game with a chance to win it, for sure. I'm almost willing to bet on that. And as I said, with a one-year turnaround, this stuff is rare. But it's even rare that it gets better and or stays the same. And something to look at, looking at economics, or from an economic standpoint, once you have a bigger sample size of something, there's going to be more variation, more likely. It's simply a fact. Let's say you kick a ball, right? This is the right analogy. Let's say you're kicking a ball 10 times. You kick a ball 10 times in one direction, you kick it straight. Depending on how many times you kick it, the more times you kick it, the ball's probably going to go in a bunch of different ways. If you kick it 3 times, and you kick it all of them like in a straight line, down the middle, whatever, and you can say, okay, I can hit the ball in a straight line. This guy can kick a ball in a straight line, right? But then you kick it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and you might see a couple go, instead of here, it goes that way. It goes that way. Someone might go super far up. One might go a little bit up and start bouncing. Like the more of a sample size you have, the more of a likelihood there's going to be a variation. That's a simple economic thing, but most people already understand that. But the point is that, a lot of people overhyped the Houston Texans. I only said to pump the brakes because something like this does not happen often at all. It simply does not happen at all. And it's very easy to fall in love with CJ Stroud, with DeMeco Ryans, as people should, because they're great players, great people. So it's easy for them to like. But you have to realize, you have to think about history. You have to think about history, and, lightning almost never strikes twice. And there's a reason for that. But that's all I really have to say here is, Texans, it's concerning with these past couple of losses and, how marginal their wins have been, especially against some of the bad teams. And I get it, your division rivals, you always play them closer because they're your division rivals. They know you better than any other team in the league. Sure, fine. But still, a team that has Super Bowl aspirations should be destroying, or not destroying, but they should be, significantly beating their opponents by a significant margin. That's what it should be. And the Texans were sold as Super Bowl contenders this year. They don't look like Super Bowl contenders right now. They look like a team that's probably going to win a playoff game in the wild card round and lose the divisional. That's what they look like right now. That's probably what's going to happen if I had to guess right now at this point in time. But just as much as I'm saying, oh yeah, the Texans are struggling, guess what? They're still going to be fine. As I said, they're going to win the AFC South by a landslide. They're still going to make the playoffs. And here's the thing. For the Texans as an organization, sure, the players would probably be disappointed that they only made a wild card round and, maybe won or lost the playoff game that got knocked out, right? That would be disappointing. But as an organization and for the fans, here's the deal. The Texans have been perpetually bad ever since they've been in the league, outside of a handful of years where they've made the playoffs and been good. And most of the time, they made the playoffs and then got knocked out immediately. So here's the thing. Even if they win the wild card round and lose in the divisional round, I think that's still a success for the Houston Texans because organizationally, they have never been able to consistently string a good team and good winning seasons together. And here's a prime opportunity to do it, and I think it can happen. So as long as the team keeps winning and they keep making the playoffs, I think this organization is going to be okay as it continues to, bring in new pieces, and as these new pieces still continue to gel and grow and get better over the course of time. That's simply the only thing that we have to, the only thing that's going to make it better is just with time and the proper methods to go about it. But I think the Houston Texans are going to be A-OK. we have to move on to two teams that are not A-OK, and even though considering one of them won, they're both not going to be A-OK come at the end of the year. And it's the Dolphins beating the Rams on Monday Night Football 23-15. Dolphins hold off a Stafford potential fourth quarter comeback to seal their third win of the year, sending the Rams back to below .500. And we'll start with Miami here. The thing with Tua, I thought Tua played fine in this game. I thought that he was managing the game okay. I know he had the interception, and then the dive head first thing was a big talking point, but we're only talking about it because it's Tua, and if we look at it from a just football standpoint, forget the name for a moment, he's just another player just trying to make a play after making a mistake. I mean, sure, if you want to talk about it and you're like, oh, well, Tua, dove with his head and risking an injury. Well, guess what? Players have to, everything is head first. If you really think about it, when you go to make a tackle, I mean, you're not going like this head first. You're not a bull, but you're leading your whole body first. Which, when your body goes forward, especially your upper body, what's something that's probably going to make contact of some kind? Your head, and especially with big giant helmets and other big giant helmets coming close to each other. Geometry tells you that bigger width means higher opportunity for them to hit. I mean, there's not much I can really explain there. But continuing on with the Dolphins, they got this win, but Devon Achane wasn't good enough in this game. And receiver-wise, where is Tyreek Hill? Where in the world is Tyreek Hill? Listen to this stat line for a moment. He has 37 catches. This is as of week 10. They're 3-7 right now, so this is 10 games in. He has 37 catches for 462 yards, 2 touchdowns, one game where he went over 100 yards, which was week 1 against Jacksonville, and then 3 games other than that have gone over 60 yards. Any other game, he hasn't even eclipsed 50. He's on pace to not even reach 900 receiving yards, which the past 2 years he's averaged over 1,900. He's not even on pace this year to reach half of that. And why is that? And the thing is, I just don't know. Is it because of Mike McDaniel? Is it because of him? I have no clue, if I'm being honest. And I know that Tyreek Hill earlier this week, it's already Tuesday. You guys are going to be seeing this Wednesday. But he mentioned that when he had gotten arrested week 1 against Jacksonville before the game, he was claiming that his wrist was hurting and that there was some type of injury with it. I can't remember what he said the injury was, but here's the deal: it wasn't a problem the past 10 weeks, past 9 weeks, right? Hasn't said anything then until now, which that sounds like a big fat excuse if I'm saying it, because if it was really that bad, you probably shouldn't have been playing. You probably should have got that checked out. And if it really is that injured, why is the team letting you play and you're not on the injury report healing properly? Because you need your hands and your wrists, you need all that to be able to catch the football properly. But also doesn't change the fact that he's not getting open. His route running is not that much there. And to be fair, obviously his numbers were going to be down earlier in the year because Tua was out. This offense in Miami is built around Tua and Tua alone. Almost to a fault. Literally to a fault, if you want to be honest. Because when Tua was out of the game for Miami, they were absolutely terrible. They were terrible. There's no way to sugarcoat it. And has the team gotten better as Tua's gotten back? Yes. They've gotten, I would say, even a lot better since Tua's came back. And that makes sense. But here's the deal. Offensively, there's still problems. There's still problems, inconsistencies with running the football at times. Wide receiver-wise, you're getting absolutely zero value, zero production out of them of notability outside of Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill is there because Tyreek Hill, he's a big name. Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill, right? But even then, your tight ends aren't getting much of anything. Your offensive line is still not that good, which you didn't really do anything over the offseason to add to it. Sure, you drafted Patrick Paul, the tackle out of Houston, in the second round, but, he's a rookie. What do you expect him to do in his rookie year? Be great? I mean, it's hard, especially for the left tackle position. That's hard. It's one of the hardest, learning curves going from rookie to later on in your playing days in the NFL. That's a really steep learning curve. And it's just, I don't know. I just don't know. Do we need to have a conversation about Mike McDaniel? I put it in my script that we had to. I don't really know. Because, let's have a conversation about Mike McDaniel. Because, he's been the head coach this is his third year now. Made the playoffs 1 year without Tua. They lost it. Or no, they missed the playoffs. They missed the playoffs his first year. Year two, goes to Kansas City in the wild card round, gets absolutely, get their butts kicked. And then this year, they're 3-7. They're not making the playoffs this year, and they're going to, be picking top 10 of the draft. Most likely, they're in contention for it at the moment. And, what has Mike McDaniel done to show that, he's worthy of his title right now as head coach? Because he was brought in to be an offensive genius. His offense has been really good these past couple of years, but even with Tua in at quarterback, it hasn't been great. Week 1 was a struggle for them, which fine, week 1, it's the new year, whatever, and there was good moments in there, but in these past 2 games, it's also been a struggle, and you can also say, sure, fine, Tua's back, he's getting back into the rhythm of things because he missed a month and a half of football, sure. Let me drink some water. I'm sorry. My throat is dry. Okay. Got a little ASMR. But it hasn't been good enough. It simply hasn't been good enough offensively at all. But also at the same time, you're supposed to be an offensive genius. If you want to go back to the system being centered around Tua, to a fault, that's a bad thing. That is a bad thing when you look at it. Because here's the thing. Let me think. What's another team that lost their starting quarterback at some point this year? Give me one moment. I apologize. Okay, I can't think of a direct example. But when you think about teams that have good offensive head coaches, you think, the quarterback, the system is always built to run your quarterback, obviously. But when the quarterback goes out and the new quarterback goes in, you make adjustments. You make changes, to help make your quarterback look better. I'm trying to think of like a good example. Like I'm trying to just go through my head. Like we'll look at Pittsburgh's not the best example. They got good quarterback play regardless. Well, no, we'll use Pittsburgh. We'll use Pittsburgh for example because when Justin Fields was starting earlier in the year for Pittsburgh, offensively they're still doing a lot of the similar stuff. But with Justin Fields, you saw a lot more read options. You saw a lot more bootlegs. You saw a lot more of this of getting the ball or getting Justin Fields the ball in open field in space where he could, read the field better, where he could run the football if he has the opportunity to. And you look at Russell Wilson when it came back, and it's been more of a structural progression-based offense in the passing game. And you can see that both offenses are still the same, give or take, but there's been slight variations to cater to each quarterback's skill set. And when you're a head coach, especially when you tout yourself as an offensive genius like Mike McDaniel, you have to be able to make that adjustment. That the fall off that the Miami Dolphins had without Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback when he got hurt, I'm sorry, that's completely unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable, and that's not what, you structure your team around. You don't structure your team to be absolutely peak at its best when everyone's healthy, and then when people start getting hurt, you don't have the depth behind it to, pick up the slack. That's why you have depth. And guess what? The Miami Dolphins had no depth, and the one quarterback that was a serviceable backup for them was Mike White, and they cut him. And what did you have? Tim Boyle, garbage. Tyler Huntley, garbage. Who else is in there? Skylar Thompson, garbage too. Like I don't know what to say. The backup quarterback situation for Miami is terrible, but it goes to reflect that, you're an offensive-minded head coach. You got to be able to have that backup plan, and you also have to be able to adjust. And if you can't adjust, that's a huge problem. And obviously, without your starting quarterback, things are not going to be as good. That's just a given fact. That's why he's a starter. But you still have to be able to find a way to mitigate these problems, and he hasn't mitigated the problems. And with Tua back in at quarterback, even then, things are still slow to get back up to speed. And you look at that, and you look at his, he's only made the playoffs once, and then you also look at the fact that we're in November, and we're going into December. The Dolphins' schedule is already kind of tough as it is. The Dolphins, under Mike McDaniel, do horrible in December, absolutely horrible in December, and they're already 3-6. They're already 3-7. And given that track record, am I inclined to believe that they're going to get better as the year goes on? No, because in the second half of the year, when it gets in the wintertime, they've shown that every year under Mike McDaniel, they've gotten worse. Now, can that get better and can that change? Absolutely. But right now, I have no reason to believe that's changing. And, it's kind of crazy that I'm crapping all over a team that won on Monday Night Football. But here's the deal. I mean, a lot of these problems that Miami has runs deep. It runs really deep, and those problems were evident in this game as well. But I don't know what's going to happen with Miami come, when the season's over. But right now, even though they got a win tonight, I mean, on Monday night, things are still not looking good for Miami. Far from it exactly. And I wanted to kind of, make a point to that and, give the credit. Miami won this game. Good for you. A win's a win no matter what happens. But these problems in Miami have been persisting ever since week 1 started, and they haven't seemed to be getting any better. And when you have a tough schedule coming up, and then you got, a team that doesn't do well against, in November or December when the weather gets colder, things aren't looking too hot for Miami right now. And even though they won, it's hard to be optimistic about where they could go as the season continues. And for the Rams, I don't know what's going on with the Rams. I mean, they're 4-5. Offense is inconsistent. Defensively, it's been all right. Their defensive line is actually really good. I really like Jared Verse, our first-round pick. I like Braden Fisk. I think it was second or third-round pick, the defensive tackle out of Florida State that played with Jared. And I like Byron Young. Byron Young and Verse both got sacks in this game. They're a solid young pass-rushing duo. But the secondary is okay. It's just okay. And then offensively, it's just too inconsistent. It's too inconsistent. The running backs are Kyron Williams, it's too inconsistent. And outside of Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, outside of a couple games here and there throughout the year, they have not gotten consistent production outside of them, which is hurting them a lot. And for Detroit Rams, for the Rams, I don't know where their season goes from here, because I really don't know what to make of this team. Because 1 week they're going to look really good, like how they were against Detroit. They were holding up against Detroit week 1. They went to overtime with them. And then you look at this and they're losing to the Miami Dolphins at home. I just have no idea what to make of this team. And, right now they don't look like a playoff team, unfortunately. They're going to be in the mix. Most definitely they're going to be in the mix. But right now I'm not really sure what to make of Detroit, and who knows what their season's going to end up as. It's been an absolute roller coaster of a year for Rams fans, to say the least. But it's not a roller coaster. It's not a roller coaster? Me picking games. As you know, I don't like to toot my own horn very much. But when it comes to stuff like this, I'm sorry, I got to talk about it. We got to preview NFL Week 11. Going into this week, I am currently 99-54 picking games. That's a 65% win percentage. It's like 64.74, something like that. Rounded up to 65, fine. Whatever you want to do. You want to do the math, whatever. But 65% picking games, 99-54. I'm on a roll since week 5. I've had winning records picking games every week since then. And I think this week I'm going to be challenged. Last week I was 9-5. This week it's probably going to be something similar. But before we start, we got 4 teams on bye. We got the Cardinals on bye. They got a win against the Jets, a dominant win, so they go in feeling good. The Carolina Panthers go into their bye after winning 2 straight. They beat the Giants in Germany. They beat the New Orleans Saints. And the Giants, obviously, they're going into the bye. They are 2-8. Their things aren't looking good for them. And then Tampa, they are currently 4-6 off of a 3 or 4 game skid. I can't remember what the exact record is, like how many games they've lost in a row, but they lost a really tough one to San Francisco, so they go in their bye week on a loss. But we got to start with Thursday Night Football, and we're going to start off with an absolute banger of a game with the Washington Commanders going to Philadelphia to face the Eagles. And when it came to picking this game, I mentioned it when Philly beat the Cowboys in the last episode. I know it's kind of late, but if you want to go check it out and watch me or listen to me recap all the other games from Sunday and Thursday Night Football of last week, go ahead and check that out now. But I mentioned that the Eagles secondary, which has struggled all year, has put 3 good games together in a row. They've put some consistency together. They've been able to play well, and that's good to see. It builds confidence, and the consistency will help later on in the year. But here's the deal. The past 3 games, the Eagles have played really bad teams. And right now, they're going up against a good team with a good quarterback, a good running backs, good wide receivers, and with a great offensive mind in Cliff Kingsbury. And this is going to be a huge test. This is going to be a huge, huge, huge test for Philadelphia, and to see, has their win streak or this little consistent streak that their defense and their secondary's got going, is it real, or is it going to be completely decimated? And while I'm not going to say it's going to be completely decimated, here's the deal. I won't believe in the Philadelphia Eagles secondary making a turnaround and that they've done it until I see it happen. And for now, I don't envision that happening. I have the Commanders winning this game. I think Jaden Daniels is going to take advantage of this lackluster secondary. He is going to carve up this defense with his arm, with his legs. I know that he was contained a lot last week against Pittsburgh. Here's the thing. The Eagles defense, while it's really good on paper, it hasn't lived up to expectations. So here's the deal. If Philadelphia can come out here, contain Jaden Daniels, and contain the passing game, contain his running ability, if they can do what they can and continue what they've done the past 3 weeks, I'll say this. Philadelphia will definitely come out. I will be able to confidently say Philly's the best team in the division. I mean, shoot, this game is for the division lead. The Eagles are 7-2, and the Commanders are 7-3. I think. Yeah. One 7-3, one 7-2, and this game is going to be for the division lead. The Eagles have started off slower. They've crawled their way back. They're right there in the middle of it with the Commanders. But I think the Commanders, with how good their offense has been and their defense also making some improvements as well, I'm more inclined to believe that the Commanders are going to win this game. Although it's going to be tight, give me the Commanders to win on Thursday Night Football. Next on the list, going into our Sunday 1 o'clock games, the Packers traveling to Chicago to face the Bears. I'm picking the Packers to win this game because Chicago is a mess. Chicago is an absolute, I'm saying it's a mess, but things are not looking good. I talked about it last week in their loss to New England, where teams reporters are questioning players if they have faith in their coaching staff. Players are saying they don't want to go there. And then whether it was today or I think maybe Monday, Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator for Chicago, has been fired, and their passing game coordinator has been promoted. And here's the thing, firing coaches in the middle of the year, in most circumstances, it's just not very smart. Because here's the deal. Shane Waldron, he's not a first-year offensive coordinator, but it's his first year in Chicago. It's his first year with a new scheme, with all new players, right? Everyone's still trying to get this figured out. And you got Shane Waldron to be your offensive coordinator because Matt Eberflus is a defensive head coach. So you got to get someone to call plays and structure the offense. And because it was year 1, obviously there's going to be hiccups. Caleb Williams is a rookie. There's going to be hiccups. One of your top receivers, Roma Dunze, he's a rookie. That's going to happen. The offensive line is not that good on the interior for Chicago. And they let him go, and I don't know if that was the right move. You can, Chicago Bears fans can, make the, let me know in the comments what you think. But here's the deal. You're not going to find an answer in your passing game coordinator. I think his name was Thomas Brown. I can't remember what his name is. But here's the deal. You're not going to find an answer for offensive coordinator and getting a better play call. That's not going to happen. You don't forget, if you're a bad offense and you your guy that's calling your plays and structuring the offense, it's not going to get better with another guy coming in here. Because if it was better with another guy, because if it gets better, or if it was better with this guy coming in, he would have been the offensive coordinator in the first place. So here's the thing. I think the Packers are going to beat Chicago. They're going to, the defense for Chicago is going to keep it close, but the Packers are going to pull away. They're going to win it. And with Green Bay's defense, I think Chicago's offensively is going to struggle some more, and it's going to show that firing Shane Waldron was not the right idea. Was not the right decision because There's a lot of new pieces. It's all year one together. You needed to this needed time to figure it out. And like the Chicago Bears have done organizationally for a long time, as bad as they've been, they do not have any patience for anything. They don't. They have zero patience as an organization. And that's why you get perpetually bad quarterback play year after year after year after year after year. Because they don't have patience. And when they've given patience, like with Justin Fields, they've shown they still couldn't get it right. So here's the hoping next year that Matt Eberflus is let go, because it's ultimately on him, if I have to say so. That's a whole different conversation for another day. But ultimately, Matt Eberflus, maybe he gets let go. You bring in a new offensive head coach. You get a new scheme in here. You restart with Caleb Williams again, having 3 offensive coordinators in his first 2 years. 2 head coaches, not a great way to develop a young quarterback, if I do say so myself. But guess what? Maybe you let Eberflus go and you get the right guy, and you hope you're right. But right now, it's a mess in Chicago. Give me the Packers to win this game. Next up, we're going to go briefly about it. Jacksonville Jaguars traveling to Detroit to face the Lions. Give me the Lions, easy to win this game. They played Houston very well. They had the great second half comeback. We talked about it earlier in the show. Here's the thing. You're not facing Houston. You're facing Jacksonville, who holds the number 1 pick in the draft at the moment. They're not a good football team. Defensively, sure, they played really well against the Minnesota Vikings. But here's the thing. Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Monroe St. Brown is on an entirely different level compared to Sam Darnold, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson. There's a completely different... These two teams are not even comparable when you're looking at that. And I think the Detroit Lions are going to, off of a crazy comeback win against the Houston Texans, I think they're going to destroy them. I think this is going to be 34-10. I think it's going to be that bad of a loss. And if I am right, this is that bad of a loss, I think this is the week Doug Peterson could get fired. At this point, it's a matter of time. It's no matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I believe that if Detroit does really beat up on Jacksonville, like I'm envisioning them doing, I would not surprise me if come next Monday or Tuesday, Doug Peterson is relieved of his duties as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Next up, we got another game that's probably not going to be very good. The Raiders at the Miami Dolphins. Give me the Dolphins to win. You know what? They're at home. It's still, here in Florida, it's still in the high 80s. So, and the Raiders, they don't do anything right. They don't do anything right at all except for Brock Bowers. And for the Miami Dolphins, they do a couple more things right. Obviously, their quarterback is better. Offensive weapons on paper are better. And in front of a home crowd with one more week with Tua back, I will play. I don't know what I want to be playing. I don't know what word I would use here. But I will say that the Dolphins are still a better football team than the Raiders, which that's why I have them winning. But I don't think this is going to be a very good game. It's going to be close, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a very good one at all. Next up on the list, we got the Rams going to New England to face the Patriots. Now, this one's probably going to be a decent game. Because here's the thing. The Rams, you never know what you're going to get with the Rams. I have them winning this game. But New England, they have their moments. With Drake May at quarterback, they've shown that offensively they can do something. There is something there. And, going up against Chicago's defense, going up against versus, the Rams defense, I kind of like the odds that New England's going to be more competitive in this game than people are probably giving them credit for. But I still think the Rams are going to win this game because they are the better football team. Offensively, they have the weapons that are going to pick apart this Patriots defense. And that's what's ultimately going to be the name of the game, I think, and why the Rams are going to win. Next up, we got the Browns traveling to New Orleans to face the Saints. Browns coming off of a bye week. And New Orleans getting their first win, their third win of the season. Yeah, they're getting their first win of the season after winning 2 weeks. So, yeah, their third win of the year, first win since week 2. After losing 7 straight, Dennis Allen as a head coach, was fired. Got in their defensive, or was it their special teams coordinator? Yeah, special teams coordinator is now been the interim head coach. First week with him as the interim head coach, they beat the Atlanta Falcons on what was a crazy upset, at least to me. And unfortunately, kind of like with what happened with the Browns a couple weeks ago when Jameis Winston came in and upset Baltimore, I think it's going to fall back down to earth. And with Cleveland coming back from a bye, another week with Nick Chubb being healthy, I think the Browns might have a little bit of the edge here, and I'm going to give them the edge to take advantage of a bad Saints defense with Jameis Winston slinging the ball, Give me the Browns to win this game in a very, very close one. This next game is going to be the best game of the week, in my opinion. If it isn't, here's the thing. If it isn't the Commanders and Eagles, this one is going to be it, with the Ravens at the Steelers. Here's the deal. There's a lot of narratives in this game. You obviously have the AFC North divisional rivalry. The AFC North, as we know, whenever those two division rivals go at it, it's an absolute dogfight. And there's been a lot of intense games with Baltimore and Pittsburgh forever. And not along with that, Patrick Queen, linebacker in Pittsburgh, is playing his former team. Deontay Johnson, the receiver that Baltimore just traded for from Carolina, he was on the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason and for multiple years in the past, obviously. So, there's a lot of narratives going into this game. This game is an immovable object versus an unstoppable force. And honestly, being at home, earlier when I was picking games and doing my schedule predictions at the beginning, before the season started, I had them splitting, because here's the deal. The Steelers defense is good. The Ravens offense is good, but because the Steelers are at home, because of that, I'll give them the edge here. I'll have the Steelers winning this game, upsetting the Baltimore Ravens. And I think, if I remember correctly, because of their division, I can't remember what the exact circumstances are, but I'm pretty sure if the Steelers win this game, they overtake the Ravens in the AFC North and will take first place. Which, if that's what happens, I don't know. That's gonna be an interesting shakeup, if I do say so myself. Next up on the list, the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Nashville to face the Tennessee Titans. I'm having the Vikings winning this game because here's the deal. The Titans defense is overrated. This Vikings defense, which is very pass rush heavy, they're very all about pressure. It's going to get to Will Levis. Will Levis does not do well under pressure at all. He's horrible, absolutely terrible. So there's really not much there, but there is one caveat. There's one caveat to this game, and it's that the Vikings are offensively on a skid. They're on a skid right now, and sure, the Titans defense is overrated in my opinion. At the same time, though, they have been able to get stops, and they have been able to contain a lot of good offenses that should be good, and not, they haven't been as productive as they normally are compared to other weeks. That's a fact. But here's the deal. The Vikings have struggled. They whooped on the Houston Texans earlier in the year, but they have struggled against the Colts. They have really, really struggled against Jacksonville a week ago. And while I believe that this is an opportunity for the Vikings to kind of offensively to kind of get right, and it looks like it can be a get right game for them, as it should be, I have an eerie suspicion that this game is going to be closer than people realize. I have a very sneaking suspicion that this game is going to come down to 5 minutes in the fourth quarter, where one team, probably the Vikings, the Vikings, of course, have a winning, are going to make a play that pulls away late and the Titans can't come back. But keep your eye on this game. Keep your eye on this game, because given how the Vikings have played the Colts and the Jaguars 2 out of the last 3 weeks, I wouldn't be super, opposed, or wouldn't be shocked that they struggle against Tennessee as well. But ultimately, I think the Vikings are the much better football team, and that's why I have them winning this game. Sticking with the AFC South idea, though, the Indianapolis Colts traveling to the Jets to face Aaron Rodgers. I think the Jets are going to win this game because defensively, their defense is still good. The the Colts offense is not good right now. They can't get the quarterback situation right. And when you look at the Jets offense and you look at the Jets defense, or you look at the Colts defense, look, it's a bad offense going up against a bad defense. But here's the deal. Where's the star power at? Usually when I pick some of these games and it's kind of close like this, especially with 2 bad teams, you got to look at, okay, where is the star power? The star power is on the Jets offense. Aaron Rodgers, whether he's been playing mid this year, but guess what? He's still a Hall of Fame quarterback at 40 years old. And going up against the bad defense, I kind of like the odds. I kind of like the advantage that he has there with his wisdom, right? And then you have Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams. On paper, this should be a solid Jets win. I think it's going to be closer than that. I think the Jets are going to struggle. This game is going to be probably like 16-10 going into the fourth quarter. But I think the Jets are going to win because I like the star power and I like the matchup that star power has against what is a bad Colts defense. Really, really bad Colts defense at that. And along with the quarterback issues that they're having, give me the Jets to win this game. I think they match up really well with the Indianapolis Colts at home as well. Next up, this is the third best game of the week, in my opinion. The Falcons traveling to Denver to face the Broncos. Broncos at home 2 weeks in a row. But here's the deal. I think the Falcons are going to win this game. This is going to be a close one. There's no doubt about that. These two teams are in... What? I just heard like a scurrying. I don't know what the heck of a sound that was. Sorry. However, this game, both teams are in very similar rooms, if I should say. They're like, if you're looking at, here's a mountain, right? Here's your bad teams, here's your good teams, right? The Falcons are like, and the Broncos are both like right here. The Falcons might have a little bit higher because obviously they have a winning record. Because the Broncos are 5-5 right now, I think they're 5-5 or they're 4-5. I can't remember exactly what their record is, but obviously last week for Denver, absolutely heartbreaking loss. Got a field goal blocked, kicked, which could have been the game winner. Lost that game against Kansas City. Literally, I talked about it. They did all they could to stop Patrick Mahomes, and they did, except they just completely collapsed on special teams. Absolutely awful, heartbreaking win to lose. And then for the Falcons, they lost against the Saints last week. They got upset. It was felt like a trap game. In retrospect, it was a trap game. And here's the thing: both of these teams coming off pretty sad losses. They need this game to get back right, because if you're Denver and you fall to 5-6, or you're the Falcons, you fall to 6-5. It's not going to make or break your season or nothing. But here's the thing. This game is going to be pivotal for their season. It's going to be pivotal. Why? Because right now, this is the time of the year where teams that are good or teams that are trying to make a run, make a push, you got to start stacking wins together. Right now, losing streaks in the NFL, or I should say the margin of error in the NFL is starting to get thinner, because teams that are really good are going to continue to pull away. Teams that are bad are going to continue to lose. But these teams that are in the middle, that are still, that are probably going to make the playoffs. The Falcons are going to make the playoffs. They're going to win their division. But for a team like the Broncos that are in the mix, right now, every game is mattering. Every game counts right now. And as I said, the margin of error is getting much smaller as the year gets closer to its end. And now that we're more than halfway through, games like these are very much more important than they are otherwise. And I think the Falcons are going to rise to the occasion. I think they're going to win defensively. It's going to be close with the Broncos keeping it close. Obviously, as I keep on saying, keeping it close. But watch Bo Nix in this game. I want you to watch Bo Nix in this game and go against the Falcons defense, because I think he's going to have some plays. I think plays in there. I think he's going to compete. I think this game is going to be close, obviously. But I think the player to watch and like the X factor, I guess, is Bo Nix, because if he can take advantage of this Falcons defense and really play good complementary football to the Broncos defense, who, if they can, if they have the opportunity to slow down the Falcons offense, there's an upset brewing here. There's a possibility that the Broncos win this game. This is going to be, like I said, this is the third best game of the week for a reason, because it's a good offense versus a good defense for Atlanta and for Denver respectively. And it's going to be an absolute wild card as to how, Bo Nix will play and what's going to happen here. But ultimately, I think the Falcons are going to win. It's going to be tight, but the Falcons are going to win. I think they're the better football team here. Give me them to get their, after their heartbreaking loss, they're going to get right in this game. Next up, the Seattle Seahawks travel to San Francisco to face the 49ers at home. 49ers coming off of a really shaky win against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went to Tampa. They were down, came back and won. Jake Moody, we talked about it, missed 3 field goals, came back and hit the game winner. And for the Seattle Seahawks, they're coming off of a bye where they lost a really, really, really tough game to the LA Rams. They were in control of this game, and the defense absolutely collapsed. And here's the thing. For the 49ers, I expect them to win this game by 2 scores, by 10 points or something like that. Because Seattle, right now, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get out of Seattle. Offensively, you're going to get good production. You're going to get good offensive football out of the Seattle Seahawks offense. Defensively is where I'm concerned, because this 49ers offensively are the healthiest they've been. They have Debo. They have Juwan Jennings. They have George Kittle. Christian McCaffrey's back. Brandon Ayuk's obviously not there, but guess what? He hasn't done anything all year when he was on the field anyway, so boo-hoo. He hasn't mattered. I think with another week of Christian McCaffrey being back, and I think with another week of all these pieces on offense being healthy and being together, and considering how much better Kyle Shanahan's teams do after their bye week, I'm just simply more inclined to believe the 49ers are going to win this game. And I said it's going to be probably a 10-point win because there's simply more here to believe in San Francisco than there is Seattle, because Seattle is just you never know what you're going to get. And on you look on down the flip side, hey, the 49ers or the Seahawks might get a really good day out of them on Sunday against San Francisco, and they might pull off the win here. That's entirely possible. I mean, any win or any loss is possible. It's the NFL any given Sunday, right? But here, it's very much possible that Seattle could get on one of their good days and upset the 49ers. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that they've, upset a division rival this year. So, hey, it's possible. But right now, I have more faith in the 49ers to win this football game. Moving down the list to this one, this is not the last game. Was not the best game, the third best game of the week. The best game of the week is not even the Ravens at the Steelers. It's going to be the Bills and the Chiefs. I completely forgot about this. I even mentioned it or talked about it with myself when going through the script. But no, forget everything I said about which game was the best of the week, whatnot. No, this game right here, the Chiefs and the Bills, are the best game of the week. And here's the thing, I say that a lot, but whatever. The Bills are the toughest team the Chiefs are going to face all year long. At this point, they are objectively the toughest. And for Buffalo, their offense is really, really good. We talked about it last week. Josh Allen is distributing the ball better than he ever has. The run game is the best it's been since Josh Allen has been here or has gotten to Buffalo. Defensively, while it's been a little bit of a mixed bag at certain points, it's been mostly pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. And I think the Bills I think this is going to be it. I know I said last week that you can't keep picking the Chiefs till it isn't the Chiefs, but look, a lot of people are thinking, oh, they're going to go 17-0. That's not happening, and it's not because I have the Bills winning this game. If you just simply look at how hard it is to win all 17 games, there's going to be a slip up. And I think this is a game where the Chiefs are going to slip up against a really good opponent, against the best opponent they have faced all year long. And with the right game plan, I think Buffalo's going to win this game. I wish this was a primetime game, but unfortunately it's not going to be. Either way, Buffalo, I believe, is going to win this football game. No doubt in my mind. That's probably going to bite me in the butt come filming this on Sunday night. But we got two more games to go. On Sunday Night Football, the Bengals travel to LA to face the Chargers. This game was flexed. If you guys didn't know, originally this game was going to be a 4 o'clock game. And then the original Sunday Night Football game was going to be the Colts and the Jets. This got flexed because this game is going to be better than the Colts and the Jets. I'm sorry it's going to be, but I think the Chargers are going to win this game. The Chargers have a really good defense. And the deal is the Bengals are nothing but Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. That is all they have right now. And for the Chargers, what do they have? They have Justin Herbert. They have J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. They have Ladd McConkey, a rookie wide receiver. They have Quentin Johnston, who is becoming their big play guy, which going up against a very bad Bengals defense, that looks like a recipe for disaster. And then you look defensively for the Chargers. They are a really good unit. They are the best scoring defense in the NFL by far. And simply put, I think there's too much talent for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase alone to overcome. Until I can see the rest of this team for the Cincinnati Bengals step up in some way consistently whatsoever, whatever that might be, it's going to be hard for me to pick them winning games. And especially against a good, solid, well-disciplined and well-coached football team like the LA Chargers, I'm having the Chargers winning this game on Sunday Night Football to move to 7-4. And we're going to conclude with a bad game. The Texans traveling to Dallas to face the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Texans are winning this game. This is a good get-right game for them after losing to Detroit in what is for them a heartbreaking fashion. They blew a huge second-half lead, 5 picks, still lost. And for Dallas, things are completely off the tracks. Things are completely off the rails. And at this point, I don't know. I don't think they're going to recover. I simply don't think they're going to recover. Without Dak, this team and this offense is no more. This offense is no more without their starting quarterback. Just like in Miami. You got to have a backup quarterback come in there and be able to play well and just kind of steer the ship, and you kind of cater their skill set and you get something out of it. And guess what? When Dak Prescott's been out, Cooper Rush hasn't been it. Yeah, like a couple years ago when he started, he was really good. But other than that, Cooper Rush has not been good. He was really, really, really bad in this game. And here's the deal. I think the Cowboys season is long, long over, and I think they're going to finish with a top 5 pick in the draft at this point. Without Dak, this offense has no redemptions. You can say CeeDee Lamb, sure, fine, but guess what? Without a star quarterback, your star receiver simply isn't going to be able to do very much. And outside of him, there's literally nothing else on this offense that's good enough. There's literally nothing else on this offense that's good enough outside of CeeDee Lamb anyways. And with the Texans defense, not great, but it is pretty darn good if you had to say so myself. This looks like a cakewalk for the Houston Texans to get a win on Monday Night Football and redeem themselves after a loss to Detroit. But that is going to do it for me today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you check out the game Mouthwashing I told you about at the beginning of the show. And don't forget to do what every YouTuber tells you to do. You already know the drill, guys. I already told you guys to comment. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe, and make sure you guys share the video. Tell your friends about it. Get everybody locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast. Coming out with great videos with you guys twice a week. Coming out on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 a.m. I have an official schedule now. If you guys didn't know, I got to update that on my YouTube bio anyways. But that is going to do it for me today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. How this didn't break, I have no idea.